He predicted, of course, come on, nobody can even approach, the government in this by-election. It's an obvious thing. Yeah, right. Right. You'll hear him again analyzing this Saturday. You'll hear him again analyzing. But it's very simple, Very, very simple. What happened in that election. And Kenny Anthony gave you a hint of it a few weeks ago, When on one of his programs, the conversations with himself, with the nation, where he did this thing about how there was so much hate in the country, and he had encountered it in a number of places, and people said to him, Nom Salah, Kenny Anthony, c'est un chien, and Nom Salah, hai Nom Salah. That was Kenny Anthony talking about his encountering. I called it at the time outrage, because he was demanding outrage against crime, outrage against this, outrage against that. And when he got it, he was seeing it as hate against himself. I didn't think it was hate himself. But I'll tell you what. If anybody believes that this election had anything essentially to do with Le Corbusier, go smoke a pipe. Go talk to the government's favorite political analyst. Go talk to him. Le Corbusier is a nice guy. Well, as nice as anybody else. Not without sin. He'd pull a gun just like anybody else if he has to, as we know. Who knew Le Corbusier packed a gun in his ankle? The things we find out. The things we find out. Going to a constituency that he believes in, he wants to help the people, and wonderful people, etc. And you go packing? You packing? Well, that's for another show. Okay? It just goes to show, when you're busy calling other people gunslingers and whatnot, and you're a gunslinger yourself. Here we go again. Pull out his gun. He wasn't good enough to have policemen there. He pulls his own gun. But as I say, that election, there are people who tell you Le Corbusier was a lousy candidate. Le Corbusier had no charisma. That's true. Le Corbusier is hardly the most charismatic man who ever stepped on the Labour Party platform. He's not even nearly the most erudite, and certainly he's not the most moving speaker. But he ain't no fool. He gets his verbs right and his adjectives in place. He does it okay. He's no worse than Walter Francois, who was embraced in his worst moments. He was no George Odlum, but then we all know what happened to George Odlum. But I put it to you, Talk City. I almost blasphemed. It doesn't matter who Kenny Anthony had put up in this particular by-election, I have since come to discover. He would have lost. Because nobody was voting for or against Le Corbusier. They were voting against Kenny Anthony. So when Kenny Anthony and the hacks talk about back to the drawing board and we must revisit, I said to somebody, it's like the surgeon who killed a patient in his operation and the nurses who helped him do it, conducting an autopsy on the body. I'll tell you one thing you're not going to get. Whatever that guy died from, it will not be attributable or connected with the surgeon and his nurses. So when Kenny Anthony says he's going to go back to the drawing board, post-mortem, and look at the facts and whatnot, and wonder why his own party didn't vote for him, it's obvious, Dr. Anthony. Face the medicine. Your people didn't vote for you because too many of your own party supporters are disgusted, are disappointed, are absolutely disillusioned by you. By you, like I am. One of your biggest boosters at one point in time. And those people out there who think that, you don't have the right to say what I just said, they go smoke something. I have a right to love my country as I choose. I have a right to speak on the politicians as I choose, saving libel, etc., etc. And I say, and I heard a lot of people calling about it, Labour Party supporters saying more or less the same thing, not nearly as articulately, of course, but then. They were talking about their disappointment. And they prefer to say the party. But it's not the party. There's nothing wrong with the Labour Party. The Labour Party is as fine a party as any other party. The guy who said, somebody said some time ago that this is a real party that came out of the working this time. I agree. The problem with the Labour Party has always been who is leading it at what particular time. Check the history of the Labour Party. The problem with the Labour Party has always been who is leading it when. And right now, Kenny Anthony, who was such an asset in '97, is now an almost irredeemable liability. And you have to face that fact. If Kenny Anthony is serious about the Labour Party, and there are a lot of people who still believe only the Labour Party has a chance of taking this country anyway. A lot of people still believe that. A lot of people are moving away from it to other parties because the Labour Party under Kenny Anthony is not the Labour